to another episode of Reseller Evolution. I'm Scott.
And I'm Carl.
How's it going today, Carl?
It's pretty good. I
We
was
are
sitting
on
out on the
podcast
porch.
number 16, Carl.
Yeah. No, it's been, I was just saying before the show, it feels like we sit down to do a show, get up, and then we sit down and do another one.
Yes. And I got the live show Sunday, so like it's just like a couple of days, boom, I'm right back at it. So
no rest for the wicked, eh?
No rest.
Yeah, it's been really good. The weather's amazing. Like I said, I got the porch out. I was actually had a nap in the hammock for the first time this year outside, so that was kind of nice.
Yeah. I don't know if we've had that warm. I guess yesterday maybe, but every day it seems to be like plus 50, like over 15 degrees Celsius. We have rain that day, so it's good. Yeah, that's what it seems to be here. I think actually, what are we? In the next couple of days is also supposed to be 18, 17, 18, and it's supposed to rain. So we'll see. I don't know, but that's good. There's nothing wrong with sleeping in a hammock out in a nice, warm, sunny day.
That's right. Yeah, 20 degrees is pretty good. So that was a nice start to the week.
What about the eclipse? Did that affect you at all? Did you?
Yeah, I tried making one of those little pinhole cameras.
Okay.
It didn't look like anything to me.
Yeah.
So no, I just got dark for a little while and then got bright again. Like I didn't really look. The funny thing is I'm into astronomy.
Yeah.
But even I didn't really care too much about the eclipse. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Did you?
Yeah, it doesn't mean a whole lot to me as well. I guess it's pretty exciting for some people. Now, right here in Simcoe, I guess it was really good.
Yeah.
My cousin had an eye exam, which they had to dilate his pupils so he couldn't drive afterwards, especially on the day of the eclipse.
Jeez.
But so I had to take him to the hospital. It was a very long day before I was able to get back. So London didn't really have that. It had a darker moment, but it didn't go full on eclipse. But I guess here it did. And Steph said that the parks were full. She's never seen so many people in Simcoe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
it was Dad who said you should have the store open that day. Too bad it was a closed day.
Yeah. It's a good point. I honestly didn't expect that many people. Like Steph said, it was insane. She goes, it was absolutely crazy. I can't even imagine what Niagara Falls was like, because that's kind of like a very key, well-known point of that everybody knows of, right? Like even the U.S. is, they got the other side of the Niagara Falls, so it's a very key place. And they were in a state of emergency, and
oh wow,
they had people coming all over. Even here in Simcoe, I guess there was people that came over here from like across the country, out west, and all that kind of stuff. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, like for here in Ottawa, we didn't get a full hit, but we got a pretty good hit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it seemed like it was, I don't know, it feels like it's not that long between eclipses, but maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't know. It's just like, but yeah, I read people were going down a little further south to hit where it went. But yeah, no, it's crazy.
Well, you guys out in Ottawa didn't have your pagan rituals or anything like that?
Oh, we sacrificed a few animals.
Trudeau's.
Yeah, I was like, where do I go with this? It's like, am I going to touch that? No, I'm not gonna. I was going to make something like, well, we gather a few conservatives and let them on fire, and it's like, no, I'm just going to let this go. But of course, Scott, you had to poke the bear, right?
Just trying to be funny, but no, everything. Outside of that, now everything seems to be okay. I would say that the booth during the week is slowing down. The weekends are good. eBay itself maybe slowed down. It's really hard for me to gauge because I've been so busy with the booth stuff. I haven't, and it's not like I didn't really have time for eBay, but it just didn't seem to be that I wasn't that desperate to list, and I definitely didn't feel like it, so I haven't been listing. So I really need to get back into that groove. It's funny how you can get into a groove and a rhythm, and then something comes along, puts a wrench into that, and then all of a sudden it's so hard to get back into that groove. You ever felt like that, Carl?
Yeah, I've been in that mood for like at least a month.
Yeah,
it feels like especially if there's something coming up that's going to grab my attention. I kind of sit around waiting for it to happen.
Yeah.
And there's been a few of those things, or there's something like that keeps popping into my head, like
Yeah.
doing my taxes. It kind of like removes all motivation for me. But like for me, the online sales are down a lot, but I haven't really listed a lot. So, and I don't even have a booth to that I can use as a reason for me like filling up my booth. So, but I mean, I watch a few live YouTube channels, and they've been complaining that sales are down. So maybe it's just the way it is. Honestly, it could be in the eclipse. People, not that people were freaked out about the eclipse, it's just distracting.
Yeah.
Instead of going online and buying stuff or going into the store, they're like, "Oh, I want to get, what are we going to do for the eclipse? Who knows?" But I definitely believe that if you list quality stuff on eBay, it will sell.
Yeah.
The
But
problem is, if I haven't put any good stuff up, so my store's mostly full of crap.
well, I also know that every single year there's cycles to this stuff, and
Yeah,
people like, oh no, what's going on with eBay? They start
yeah,
blaming eBay.
yeah,
It really is cycles. Even the booth has cycles. Like we're slowing down a little bit during the week, but it's that time of year. People are going to start doing gardening. They're going to start going
yeah.
out. I feel the reason that the booth sales were so strong is compared to other ones. Now I can't speak for everyone around the world, but here in little town of Waterford was because the weather was basically spring like, but nothing that usually opens up in the spring for the summer and all that has started,
Right. You
right?
couldn't go down to the garden store. It wasn't
Yeah,
going to take up your weekends because the garden store is not open yet. You can't really do planting because,
yeah,
like, a frost would come along in one of these days and just kill everything. So yeah, you're right. It's like it felt like that time where you could do a lot of stuff, but there wasn't actually a lot you could
100%.
physically do outside.
Like
Yeah,
come May 2-4, everybody starts going camping. They do their
yeah,
trips to the cottages and all that kind of stuff. Like that wasn't even really there. You know what I mean? So people were probably antsy because the weather was fairly decent. Sometimes in February we had, you know, 12, 15 degrees Celsius days. Like those are unheard of most of the time, right?
this year was definitely a very mild winter. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And even if it was kind of chilly out, we really didn't have any snow, at least southern Ontario part. I don't know
No,
about you guys.
we lost our snow cover really early.
Yeah.
And even we had a good dump like last week, and it's like completely gone. Like it didn't last more than a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, you're right. But it feels like now things are starting to start up again. Like we are talking pre-show that it looks like garage sales might be starting up soon. Maybe a couple this weekend, but after that, I've noticed quite a few. So
Yeah.
all that's starting up again. Um, but yeah, you know, the other thing that happened this week was I got a neutral. I seem to be in a streak.
Another
So
one.
yeah. So well, did I mention I had a negative,
You had the negative, but now you
and
got
now
a
I got a
neutral.
neutral? Yeah, at the
Okay.
same time, or a week
Wow.
later, I should say. Yeah. So what was the neutral? Was said I didn't. The shipping was too expensive, and it took too long to get there. And it's like, well, those are out of my control. But I honestly, I don't give two rats asses about neutrals, because anyone who's going to read that is going to be like, okay, whatever, you complain about the price for shipping is too high, but you paid it, so it's not like it was a surprise or something. But so I'm just that one I'm gonna leave.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't ask for, like, I wouldn't ask for, and I was listening to our show last week, and uh, I think I misunderstood what you said about the VCR situation. Like, were you saying it didn't work, or they said it worked but it didn't connect to their TV?
they said it works, but it won't connect to their TVs.
See, now that's what I thought. So see, those two things I would completely talk to eBay about and try to get them reversed. I don't care if it's a neutral or not. Like, in effect, to me, I just don't think people should be able to get away with that because they should know whether it connects to their TV or not. Like, if you put that in the
Yeah,
system, like they're eBay's, what are they going to say? Like, eBay's going to say, well, it works. You showed everything in your pictures, how it connects and stuff with the connecting cables, and like these people can't just do that just because what, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, the problem is, so there's an update to that actually,
okay,
but it's not quite complete. So they said they left me negative, and then they said, "Oh, this just still doesn't work." And I said, "Well, if you remove the negative feedback, I'll just give you all your money back because I'd rather get rid of the negative and
yes,
give them
for
all their
sure,
money back because
yeah,
there's nothing you can do. Because let's say they return it, well, that's going to cost me at least 25 or $30
right,
plus the BS,
right,
and it's only worth like $50.
right.
So
You
yeah,
probably
it
have less
hurts.
than that into it.
It hurts because I'm going to be, yeah, I paid the $10 for it plus the 25 to ship it down there.
Yeah,
So let's say $40. I'm out $40 or something.
okay,
That sucks. But what sucks more is getting it back for $25 and getting things across the border to Canada. Sometimes CBSA thinks you're like buying it, not returning it, and they'll charge you fees, and you got to deal with the fees and all. It for the amount of money we're talking about, I would just rather just give them their money, especially
100%.
if they remove the feedback. They said they would,
Okay,
so I did a feedback uh, revisal request. They haven't they answered it. They take days and days and days and days to send me to communicate with me. It's kind of weird. So, anyways, we'll
yeah,
see how that goes. So I might
okay,
get it removed, maybe not, whatever. But it is very distracting. So the neutral, I don't care about. The neutral is just kind of funny. It's like whatever. But
yeah. So they're probably like at the same point. Well, did he refund us? Like maybe they're waiting for a refund before they pull the trigger.
well, I sent a refund. I sent a revision request.
Right.
I'm not giving them the refund until I get that. Until
But they
they
might say, I'm not doing a
that.
revision request till I get that
Well,
refund.
then they should say something to me because
You
I
made it clear?
yeah, I'm pretty sure I made it pretty clear. I said if you revive your feedback, I'll give you a full refund. I
Okay.
even wrote that in the revision request.
Okay.
So it's all on quote unquote paper, right? It's all written
Right.
down.
So they could go back to eBay and
And say he
complain.
said he would do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do that on purpose just to because that's what I'm gonna do. It's not like I'm
Yeah.
hiding it. I'm not gonna renege on that. So we'll see what actually probably next show maybe nothing's happened or we'll see what actually happens. But
Okay.
I
So yeah, so the other one is now what is it now that you got the neutral on?
the
What
neutrals
was
they said it cost too much to ship to them.
what was
It
the
took
item
too
though?
long. It was a Starbucks mug.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. Okay.
So whatever. I honestly don't care about the neutrals.
Yeah.
Uh
Well, I'll tell you a story that I got. The guy said the hat doesn't fit. I told you this one, so
yeah,
he gave me a 5-star review for refunding him.
I'm sure he did.
He did.
Yeah. No, I'm sure he was very happy about that.
Yeah. So
Did you get the
I'm
hat
going to
back?
block him so he can't buy from me anymore. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean. But at least I refunded a hat that I probably had $1 or nothing in, and but I did lose on the shipping. There's no question there, right?
It's hard
So
though. Like I know people say, "Oh, you only spent $5 on it," but I kind of see it as like I lost $85 because
yeah,
I understand it's the good way to look at it. I
yeah,
agree. I'm just saying when the money comes back out of your account and it's like $85 or whatever, or
yeah,
$80 is like ouch.
yeah,
But especially
and
when sales are low. When sales are low, that's a good portion of my week that
yeah.
I
No,
really notice it.
I understand that. I look at I just look at it like it's just a headache. It's not really worth it.
Yeah.
Um, I think I was fortunate too that the person hadn't given me a negative. He could contacted me, right? So
If they give you a negative for the hat not fitting their head,
I know,
that one I would fight because that's just
dude.
dumb.
What's the difference between that and not fitting your TV? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
Like,
no, but it's because I said I didn't deal with it. I had a lot of crap going on at the time. I was not the best at customer service for that customer. I will not defend myself for that. Uh so yeah, that's why I'm like whatever. I kind of deserve that one. But if they revise it though, I will do all that stuff and
yeah,
go on. And it's like my eBay block buyer list has grown pretty long now. I had to block. I blocked the person who gave me the neutral, and it's like, wow, this is like pages of it now. And I don't block that often. Like usually, I don't block for any. Like usually, for any negative, I'm going to block because I just don't want any chance of anything going wrong if the person buys a second item,
Yeah.
just in case, because they'll automatically just go straight to neg, and I don't want that. But I've blocked people for like sending me stupid lowball offers. And it's just like block. I don't even reply. I don't. I just like block.
Um, I think you're allowed like 5,000.
Oh, is there a limit?
I think there's a limit. Yeah.
Okay,
So
I'm not quite at 5,000 yet.
you're at 4,695 or something, right? Like you still got a couple hundred left, Carl. But yeah. So well, I mean, the negatives always hurt, right? Like anything negative, especially when it can affect. I mean, I don't know how much it really does, but it can affect. Like it's funny. We talk about shows. If we talk negativity, then the views go up. But it's kind of true. Like, I mean, I've got so many, like 303 positives and one neutral, and that one neutral like plays with my mind like
I
crazy.
know
Right?
it does. It does.
So the other neutral I was able to get, like I talked to eBay and they took it away, but because it was obviously just bullshit. Um, but yeah, it's it stings, right? So for sure.
The other thing I've heard from numerous different sources now too is that it's much harder to get eBay to remove negatives and neutrals.
Okay.
Because like I remember a year ago or so, it was really easy. I can't remember what it was. It was something completely idiotic, and I got removed without a fight. But I've heard lots of people now saying even when legitimate ones that you should be able to get removed, they haven't been able to get removed. So there's been a process change on eBay's end from what I can tell. And like I said, from numerous sources, not just like, one or two people, like a lot of people have talked about it. So, it's like, it's business, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is it's personal. And just like sometimes I'll go like, if I'm feeling a little down or whatever, I'll go into eBay feedback and it's like all these wonderful comments. And it makes you feel good, right? But like you said, for every negative, you need like 100 positive just to countermeasure that one negative because it feels personal, right?
For sure.
That's why
Yeah.
That's why the neutral I don't care because it's like, well, the shipping was high and it took a long time to get there. Well, I shipped it on time for sure, and yeah, shipping's expensive, especially for Starbucks mugs, especially for that weight class, and I charged the right amount, so I don't feel any guilty. So that one doesn't affect me. That's the difference. But should we go on? Let's not talk about this.
Well, okay. Here. Well, let's talk about positive comments, Carl, because we got some comments from some of the viewers here. So we'll go into that if you want.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Well, we'll start with the. We'll just go in order as they're here. Do you want to read the first one or?
Sure.
Okay. So this is from the previous show, and the comments.
So the previous show was number 15. You're a reseller when. Did we say the number for this one? We did, right?
Yeah, podcast number 16.
Okay, good. So doing it wrong. Great show, guys. You all are easy to listen to every week. Keep up the good work. Oh, thanks, man. We appreciate that.
Yeah, that's I like that. Thank you.
And he's saying here for the receipts, my accountant advised me that the IRS doesn't care about paper receipts anymore as long as you copy everything to a spreadsheet. They'll take the spreadsheet as your legitimate record keeping. They're your official books. Yeah, it's probably the same thing. I don't know for Canada for CRA. I wouldn't be surprised. They don't want to get really probably into the nitty gritty as long as you can show it,
Yeah.
And then you have to be reasonable too. I think that's the thing. Like, for garage sales, there's no official receipts. So I have a book and I just write everything in the book. I carry around, like I have it, like when there's garage sales, I just carry the book in the car.
Yeah.
And every time I buy something, I just write down the date, like I have the date, and then I wrote down how much I paid for everything. And that, as long as it's reasonable, that CRI should take that because there's nothing else that you're going to have.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I do too. I write it down in a book and it's just the date what I paid for it. Yeah, like the
Yeah,
item and what I paid for it, right? So
yeah,
um I do it a little bit differently in that whatever goes to eBay is an eBay book, and whatever goes to my booth is a booth book. You know what I mean? So I don't know why. eBay and Etsy is the same book. I should say that, but I just try to keep the booth and my eBay like online stuff separated. So
yeah. There's a few things I have like that, like for like where I keep things separate. But I don't. I'm most 99% eBay. So yeah. But
yeah,
anyways, thank you doing it wrong for the encouragement. We appreciate that. Did you want to read the next one?
sure. Randy, Nova Scotia Celt 528218. Another fun show. Always makes Friday a little better. Thanks, Randy. Um, and I would say every time we read comments, that makes us feel a little better. It makes us feel like somebody's listening. So I
Yeah,
appreciate
someone's
that.
listening, and it feels like a community. And I know these people. I've
Yeah.
talked
Oh,
to them
for
enough
sure.
online, so it's
For
not
sure.
like yeah, no, it's good.
As far as improving my reselling life, and that's kind of going into today's topic, so that's good. As far as improving my reseller life, may have something happen this month, but don't want to jinx it by mentioning it. So we'll look forward to
Hmm.
in the next happening this month. So we're looking forward to the next couple shows. Maybe Randy will share that with us and find out what exactly he's talking about. So maybe happening this month, improving reseller life. So would he be opening a store?
Well,
Maybe,
no, maybe you're
or
speculating now. Maybe.
is he gonna get a booth? He said he was an hour and a half away. Oh, what are we guessing here? What are we?
I didn't
Uh,
even think of going down that.
what's
Yeah,
that?
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, speculating on what Randy's up to
Yeah.
and over in Nova
So
Scotia.
that'll be interesting. I'll look forward to finding that out. Always makes it a little better. Improving my reselling life may have something happen this month, but I don't want to jinx it yet by mentioning it. Huh? Maybe it's a huge pick.
Maybe
You
that'd be
know?
nice.
Yeah. Uh, well, we look forward to that, Randy. Thanks for the comment. Now I'm going to be like awake at night for the rest until he tells us
Yeah.
what the hell what's going on. But yeah, Randy's always been good at leaving comments, and both the Sunday night show and this show, I always appreciate it. And it's like you know them personally, and now I'm really gonna have to be in limbo here until I figure this out. So,
Yeah.
but good luck with it, Randy. Hopefully, it turns out good. And Chop Chop, you got Chop Chop.
So you're a reseller. Uh, that when your relatives come visiting, they bring empty boxes of packaging. Yes, I've had that happen. And when your old van is parked in the drive and full of stuff for the car boot sales, well, I cleaned up my car finally with the donation stuff this week. But yes, or you still have stuff from your last buy. Garage sales sometimes will sit in there for a while. Um, and when you won't buy anything new because secondhand is good enough. And if something you own breaks, you sell the parts. Yes, I've
That's a
also
good
done
one.
that.
The old
That is a
breaks.
good one.
Yeah, we didn't
Yeah.
mention that. That would have been good for last week. Um, and not even something I own, but if I buy something and it doesn't work, then you can sell that too, right? So there's all right, like even video game consoles, like if you buy them and they don't work, you pay 10-15 bucks, hopefully.
Yeah, I've talked
You'll
about
still
that
get your
before.
money
It's like
back or maybe even make a couple extra bucks just by putting it as parts of repair, right? So
that's my rule for Walkmans. If I pick up a Walkman, I want to make sure that I can get my money back at least for parts and repairs
yeah.
because so many of them don't work. So just is
And
better that way.
I'm gonna add a little bit to this. And when your old van is parked in the drive and full of stuff for the car boot sales,
Yeah.
well, what about if the wife or the girlfriend's car is also full because
Oh
of your
no.
stuff?
Yeah. I
I
I
I I dealt with that this week. So
no.
yeah, so Steph likes to help. So what she does is she helps me when I have to take stuff to the booth if she's available. Right, she's usually busy, but she always tries, especially when it's a vendor day, she always tries to make it schedule it so that she can be part of that. And we'll fill up both the truck and the car sometimes, right? If we got a lot of stuff to take in. So this time we filled up the truck in the car, and then her car was full for about 4 or 5 days.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. That would not be tolerated here.
So I said, you know what? Just
Uh,
put it along the house.
no, you know the funny thing about that is I talked to Amy about that off the show there.
Yeah, yeah.
She said, if you ever do that, you can just like help me in court. that would
Oh,
not
trust me,
happen.
I get it too. Trust me. Stuff is so like everything is about image, right? Like she doesn't want the neighbors, and I'm like, dude, what do you want? Like we're just living life. I don't give a shit what the neighbors do. They can do whatever they
Buddy,
want.
Scotty, you're that neighbor people talk about. Come on, lined up
Everybody,
stuff.
Carl, I swear,
Do you have any broken cars in your backyard?
we don't have
Oh,
that big of a yard. If I lived out in the country, most likely.
oh my
Because you know how
god.
much that steel is worth, Carl. We could, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
So, anyway,
Yeah.
so I mean, all the neighbors wave, they talk, they come across, like everything is fine, and it's probably not as bad as it's probably as bad as it sounds.
I'm gonna get you to take a picture and send it to me because I want to see if this is how bad this is and if we need an intervention. Send Adam
I
over
will
there.
do that. Keep in mind that I think it would have been Saturday. I did take some of the stuff and put it in the backyard because I'm just going to chop it up and burn it because it's old wood stuff. Um, I'll talk pictures of that stuff too, but and then some of the stuff was glass lamps, so
Yeah.
I mean they were fine, and I put them in the back because I'm going to go through them now. But there's still stuff around. But anyway, I won't digress too far. But
I'm not gonna bug Scotty too much about it.
I know
I
it's
made
bad.
a little note
I
about
know
this.
it's bad, dude. I know, and it's almost to the point where I don't need to do that now, right? So everything's getting under control.
Notice he said almost.
So, anyways, hey, we were just outside for coffee this morning, and some guy walked by, and before the show here, and he's just a neighbor, and he's sitting there talking to us and stuff. And I guess he goes to the Waterford store and stuff, works there a couple days a week, so
yeah,
they know each other. He's totally fine. Like, nobody's really going to complain. And when I said a bylaw officer, nobody's called the bylaw officer on us or anything. So it's I guess it can't be that bad. So anyway, I don't know where I was going with that.
You're
but
going
anyway,
with the van full of stuff, and then
so stuff was full of my stuff, and my back seat was empty. So when I go to take my cousin the next to the hospital, well, her car was now empty, and she had just put everything in the back of my truck.
So if I was going to do that, I would empty her car first before my truck. I wouldn't go like, oh, just empty my stuff first so I can put more stuff in my car.
Yeah, well, if my truck's empty, I can put more stuff in it.
Yeah, exactly. I know the way you're thinking. I understand.
It's not that bad. She's fine. She's good. She's a good girl. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to add that. So thanks, Chop Chop, for bringing that up because now I'm going to get in trouble for bringing it up.
Yeah, thanks everyone who left comments. We do appreciate it.
But all right, so what's the topic this week, Carl?
So ways to improve your business, the directions you want to improve your business, maybe some weaknesses that you have in your business that you want to change. Just a general topic like that. When I think of my, when I think of my business, like there's a few things that like factors that are really involved in my business. Like, and you can look at each one kind of individually and what's holding you back in your business. And there's always going to be something holding you back. So it's either like time, like you just don't have enough time to do anything else. Capital, which is like how much money you have to buy stuff. If you don't have enough capital, then you have an issue. Storage. If you're storing stuff outside your house, you have a problem with storage. Sourcing. If you can't source enough good stuff. And I was talking to Scott before the show complaining about sourcing, and I showed him where I could source from. He's like, why aren't you buying all this stuff? So the sourcing is an issue for me. Motivation. That's the other aspect of like, you could have all those things solved. You could have all the time in the world. You could have all the capital in the world. Lots of room for storage. Sourcing is great. But if you're not motivated to actually do anything with the stuff you have, well, then you're starting into hoarder territory, and no one wants to do that.
So one of the things I was thinking about as you were saying that, Carl, is that you're not really one to for the yard sales, which obviously you're still going to go to, but I would say that those auctions you were talking about would be a good way where you don't have to drive, you don't have to negotiate, that kind of thing.
It's really good use of your time, right? So like for me, honestly, one of my big things holding my business back and also affects my motivation is the lack of sourcing of good material to sell.
Right.
Um, so for example, I went through all the thrift stores yesterday. I found like one thing. It was just, and I find that's been a lot with thrift stores lately. I also you're what you've been talking about is being like a little worm in my head, where it's like thrift stores, you just can't buy enough quickly enough to make it worth your time, and I'm finding that true. Uh, it's easy, but it's not efficient. You know, I
And
can't.
and I
And
find too, I don't mean to interrupt, I'm just going
yeah,
to pop in
yeah,
here with, I also find it kind of depressing and a deterrent in reselling. If you're not successful in finding the enough stuff, you're going to be kind of like more down about it. You know what I mean?
100%. It's very demotivating when you spend 4 or 5 hours running around
Yeah.
and you don't find anything. Like that sucks. Like there's no like for me, I just sit there going, I'm being inefficient. My German side comes through. It's like this is inefficient. You're wasting your time. Your items per hour stats are decreasing minute by minute, and I get really frustrated with thrift stores. And that's actually kind of my problem with the garage sales too, because it was the same thing. Is that I'm running around, and the items I'm finding per hour of work, the black and white thinking that I do, it was very inefficient, and I get very like I've talked about 1,000 times. I'm not a patient man, and it's demotivating for me when I don't find stuff. I don't find, like when you find something you sell for 20 and picked up for $5, that's okay, but it doesn't make you want to run home and list that item, does it? It's like, it's great when you find a camera for $5 and list for $100 or $200. That's motivating. But when you don't find that stuff for a while, it can be very demotivating. So like sourcing is something is probably my biggest weakness in my business right now, especially because I also find that there's a lot more competition and the stores have caught on a lot more. So and there seems to be a lot less quality of inventory coming through. So if there's something I'm going to work on in my business, it's sourcing. I think that's almost your biggest strength is your sourcing.
Yeah, right now it seems to be like I definitely have no problem finding stuff, and when I say find stuff, I think it's good stuff. Like I'm, my item average like the average price per item that I sell on eBay
Yeah,
hovers between 80 and 120. I've said that before. My booth is doing well, so I mean I'm finding stuff that people want.
yeah.
You know, so uh I think sourcing is good, and I always go on the cheap. I kind of talk about that quite a bit. To people might think I'm buying it too cheap. You know what I mean? I'm not being fair, but I think that's all part of the game. I think you got to get as good a stuff you can for as cheap as you can, and I feel comfortable with what I've been picking for sure, and the amount for sure.
And the time invested in that.
Totally.
Because yeah, you can pick up stuff cheap, but if you spend 24 hours running around buying cheap stuff and it's only a few things a day, that you can't run a business like that either.
Yeah.
Hobby's fine, but you still want to feel good about your day. And like, you said that $80 to $100 eBay sales. Well, I love finding stuff like that too. It's the finding the stuff that meets those qualifications that can be really difficult. And I think, like on this podcast, we want to be as honest as possible. And I, I want to be honest. Like I'm finding it harder and finding it harder and I'm trying to figure out why. And it's not like I'm like, oh no, the world's ending here. It's just that there are some things that have changed in the last couple of years.
One of the things that I just kind of popped in my head right now
Yeah.
is, and I don't know if I know you're retired, you're comfortable, you got a comfortable living. I'm not saying this to go out to make money. You can even volunteer this, right? But go to the antique store that does really well. I think you said there's one about an hour away from you.
Yeah.
And try to volunteer on a Saturday, Sunday, once a month, twice a month, every, you know, try to volunteer or get a job there. Just like working cash. You will start to see, and I do this because if they're busy or someone calls in sick, or like I've gone in there and I've worked at the antique store, and you see what people are buying for how much. And it boggles your mind sometimes, stuff that you don't even think of. And you start to learn
Good
prices
point. Yeah.
of things that sell. Some people can do this by going through eBay and looking through solds, but that's 100% how I've learned.
Me
And
too. Yeah.
you start seeing how, like, what people are buying and how much they're willing to spend on stuff. When you go to the auction, I see that as well. I'll go to auctions, I'll see how much people are willing to spend on things, which is mind-boggling. But I'm not saying that that's the only way, but I'm just saying, like, that's kind of where I went, and I see a lot of things that I would never think had value. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's definitely a disconnect for me between me and the customer. They're very much at arm's length. And the customers you see at the antique malls are going to be different customers than you see on eBay, right?
To a
Uh,
degree, to a degree. Like, there might be different personalities, but the items that are desired are going to be the same.
and it's difficult because some of the items that are desired, not the items that are personally attractive to me. Like we were talking about this in the pre-show, where it's like, who buys this crap for some of the stuff that we sell? But obviously people want it, right? And we're not the customer. And so yeah, there is a disconnect there. I think too, it's like when you're comfortable, you're not hungry. And sometimes hungry can be a good thing in a way. But I've never been hungry, so I've never been able to
Well, one of
understand
the
that.
things that I'm just going to kind of pop in here and kind of backtrack a little bit is,
Yeah, let's backtrack.
I think when people sell on eBay,
Yeah.
they're kind of one track mind. Maybe they watch a lot of YouTubers and they see a lot of toys, or they see a lot of
Mm.
similar items. And then when you, like, video games, for instance, is a classic, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right. So you go out to yard sales. Well, there's guys just going around just grabbing video games. But
And are
but
they profitable? Like that's the thing too. It's
it
like,
depends what they're paying for it, for
yeah,
sure. Right. And there's a
yeah,
lot of competition in video games. And I
there
think
is.
they're a little bit on the lower end. Like, I think during pandemic they were a lot higher. So those kind of prices are still stuck in people's minds, but I don't think you're getting those prices.
No.
But if you do antiques, and I'm not saying every antique or everything old is worth money, but you start getting an idea. And I think when I watch YouTubers, there's a small percentage of them that pick what I pick. You know what I mean? Like, there are a couple guys. So what I'm saying is the competition when you go to yard sales, I can go to yard sales. The cameras, typewriters, uh, those things are going to be gone. Video games, those things are going to be gone for the most part. But
Yeah.
I can still get in there, get a decent thing of folk art or a decent painting or something that is old and unique that people just are walking by.
Hmm.
But because of the experience at the booth, I know that this has 40, 50, 100, $200 value, but everybody's walking by with it because people aren't seeing it on, they don't have an antique booth, so they're not going to see it that way, or they don't see it online. They're not watching YouTubers pick this kind of stuff up. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
think a
No,
lot of people, YouTubers, and I'm not putting them down. I think they do a great job in some of the videos I see. It's amazing that they find as much as they find. Kudos to them. That's fantastic. But if you can't find that stuff,
yeah.
I just think there's other alternatives, right? Like pop advertisement or magazines, or there's other things out there. I can
Yeah.
go, you know what I mean? You could go on and on and on. But if you're just looking for this little niche or things with a barcode, or, like, you're limiting yourself. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Oh, I I believe that, and I've come to understand that. And I tell you, the best resellers that I've met in real life are the ones that are selling stuff that is not so easy to look up.
100%, for
Because
sure.
we're at the point now where I saw grandma the other day taking out her cell phone, Google lensing an item and checking it on eBay. Right? Like I'm not even really kidding. So, we're the ease of entry into this market is really low. But
Yeah.
what's not so easy is the stuff that a painting or, you know, or signage or whatever, bottles or pop cans or oil or whatever it is, right? It's not like you can't learn that stuff. It's just that it's not as like you can't scan a barcode, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
not a video game where there's a huge market for it. But like you said, there's also a ton of people looking for it. Like I was listening to a guy, I forget who it was, but he was saying he was buying video game lots, and he was saying that had stopped going full time, and he said he was buying video game lots, and he said, well, I was getting them for 60% or 70% of the value of the items. And it's like people are saying you're paying way too much. You can't pay 70% or 60% of the retail value of for
No.
a video game.
Have anything.
And then he said, well, the problem is I can't buy them for that any cheaper than that in my area. And then all I was thinking is then you shouldn't be buying it.
Yeah.
Like that market has been saturated, and that can be really upsetting to people. Believe me, because I know, because I've been affected by that too. And it's upsetting when, you know, when something that's been working for a long time stops working. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone into, we've talked about this before. We won't go into depth to this, but like with antique markets where someone's fallen into that trap and they never got out again.
Right.
And they're wondering why their stuff doesn't sell, you know? Anyways, we shouldn't go too much into the sourcing, but yes, the sourcing is probably one of my things I need to work on. Should we switch to something else just so we don't get stuck?
Well, I
Or did
would
you
say
want to add
don't be
anything
afraid
else?
to take chances. If items are
Yeah.
cheap, bundle it in. I mean, at the worst case scenario, what you're going to burn it in a burn pile in the backyard, or you're going to throw it away.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it's a couple bucks, it's a learning experience. But I'll tell you on the flip side of that,
Mm-hmm.
and more often than not, if you buy things that look kind of unique and old and interesting,
You'll be okay.
you'll be okay.
Yeah.
You know, especially if it's only a couple of bucks, right? Um, a lot of things that I like to do is buy like salvaged items, like doorknobs or
Mm.
porcelain kind of doorknobs and brass, like old brass or bronze stuff, right? Like it's crazy. It's crazy what
Yeah.
has value and people like it's crazy in some ways, but in other ways, it totally makes sense, and I can understand it too. So, um, but I'm just saying, like light fixtures, like there's so much, there is so much out there. But if you
Yeah.
just narrow down to like video games, like books, look, I've expanded books. I took a little bit of a gamble on that book lot, and it turned out not only did I do very well with the books, I learned so much about books. You know,
Yeah. And
so
especially books without barcodes.
oh my,
Because
none
I
of my
tell
books have
you,
barcodes.
the people who've disappeared was all the guys who were going along the bookshelves
Yeah,
and pinging all the books. They've all disappeared. Or at least I haven't seen one in a long time, because they used to be in the thrift stores, right? They just go along and they ping, ping, ping all the UPC codes. But I think that market got flooded.
yeah,
So one thing that people said to me is like, don't get so addicted to your cell phone to look stuff up. And I am so addicted to my cell phone
yeah.
for
I
looking
don't
stuff
look
up.
very rarely do I
Yeah.
ever look anything up when I'm out there. I just grab it. If the price is right, I'm gonna grab it. I mean, if the price is $50 and I'm not sure if this is worth $500 or something like that, like maybe I'll use it then. You know what I
If you have
mean?
a lot of time, like that's the nice thing about estate sale. I mean, well, estate sales too, actually, but for thrift stores is no one's forcing you to buy that item then and there. There's not someone else who's going to come along and say, "Oh, I'll give you $5 for it." Like you have it in your hands, right?
Yeah.
It's you have time to look things up, but really, I'm wondering if at this point it's holding me back a little bit. So
Well, I mean, the only way to do it is go out some weekend at a yard sale and say I'm not going to use my phone at all, and
oof.
then and yeah, no, but and then just kind of go on gut instinct and find
Oh,
out if you did really well or not.
oh man, huh.
Yeah,
I don't know if I can do that. I started to
what do
panic
you have
already.
so much stuff? I gotta line it up inside along the house. You know,
Yeah.
that's what you're gonna say to her.
Oh, that would be an interesting challenge for me. Is like,
You'll
don't
have a
look up.
car full of stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's
Well,
it's
you know
it's
what?
it's funny that
Not
uh,
only
yeah,
will you be like not only does looking on the phone kind of like in my mind take a lot of time, like you're missing the opportunity to buy a lot more stuff because you're wasting time. You know what I mean? I think
There's
you
a
should be
cost,
able
yeah.
to. Well, I mean, I'm sure I miss stuff all the time. I don't pretend I don't. But I go to a yard sale and I'm scanning the table and looking for stuff that pops out to me. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
if it's on the cheap enough, I'm gonna grab it, and then I'm gone.
So I would say that you go through probably a lot of capital, a lot of money and purchasing in a week, right? I'm not saying this is like a bad thing. This is a good thing, just to be
No,
clear.
no, it depends. It depends. Like yes and no. Like I mean, my booth goes through so much product. Like
Well,
if
you
this
have,
was
I was
a
going to say it's good,
video as
right?
opposed to audio, I could show you. Like I'll show you after the show, but like there's so many items. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
they're not all $100 items. That's for sure. But my books might be $5 to $10, but I might sell 5 or 6 some days. You know what I mean? My video games, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of lower end stuff for sure. But
But
there's also, if I'm going through, oh God, it's like these last couple of months have been insane. But with the 3 booths, so there's some days that I'll probably go through 40 items in a day,
yeah, and you have to replace them.
and I have to replace them, right?
So let's
So,
say like it's like a couple bucks each. That's like at least $100 a day just
yep.
to, and probably more than that, just to keep up. I don't spend $100 a week. So, but anyways, my point with capital is like with money, sometimes you'll hear where people are saying that they can't buy stuff because they need to sell something to buy things. And I'm saying if that happens to you, then there's probably something wrong in your business. Because if you can't buy anything because you don't have, like, I'm not talking about the, like, something comes along as $20,000 for like a deal. I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about like I can't go to the thrift stores because I don't have $100 to spend on items. I say there's something, and you've been doing business for a while.
Yeah.
It's not your. Then there's something wrong that you have to look at in your business because you should never be cash flow starved like that.
What would that be from? Overspending or
So I would
underselling
say
or listing?
all those things. So I'm saying if you don't have cash and you have lots of inventory, if you don't have capital, we'll call it capital. So
Yeah,
if you don't have capital, but you have lots of stuff you've unlisted, you need to obviously list your stuff.
right.
Or the stuff you have isn't selling. You should look at that. Like maybe you have a bunch of stuff that you hoped would sell and it's just sitting around. Maybe you've overpriced your stuff. Maybe you're picking up stuff, you're paying too much for the stuff. So when you're not actually making a profit. I've seen that a few times too, where people are paying way too much for stuff and not accounting for all their expenses. That's why I think it's really actually important to have, especially if you've been doing it for a while, have a separate bank account, which is just your eBay stuff. Because
Right.
if you mix your eBay stuff in with your personal stuff, you won't really, especially if you have a salary or something like a job, you won't actually know how you're really doing. There's nothing that tells you how well you're doing is if you have a separate bank account and if there's money in there or there's not money in there. So, that's the one thing like for me, or if there's not enough capital, the other thing that can happen is you're pulling too much out of your business and putting it in your pocket. And you have to be careful about that too. Uh,
100%. Like that's probably, especially in the beginning, for sure. That's probably one of the things. Like, oh, I just made $500 and I spent $20 on this thing, and whatever. I'm kind of inflating the numbers, but
mm,
so now I can go and go buy this what I've always wanted for $500. Well, that $500 should go into like the business account until, because you might want to buy something, a bunch of shit for $500,
yeah.
and now you've spent it on your personal stuff. Yeah, that kind of stuff should totally be separate for
It
sure.
also muddies how well you're doing because you don't really know at that point.
Yeah,
You might be subsidizing how you think you're making money, but you're actually losing money and it's not as clear.
yeah,
Like, and it doesn't really cost that much to have a separate bank account. So if I recommend that no matter what, to be
right.
honest. If you find you don't have money to buy new items, then there's something wrong, and you have to look at one of those things. For me, what I do is like, I take money out of my business for my personal as well, but I use every week a flat amount comes out, and I can sustain that amount easily. And if I find my eBay account's growing quite large, then I'll increase the amount I automatically transfer to my personal account. It's little things like that. We don't have to get stuck on capital. I'm
Yeah,
just saying, if you're one of those people who says I can't go and buy anything new because I don't have any money, look at those things. I don't think that's either one of us though. But I
no,
know, obviously you're going through a lot more capital every week than I am because you're having to supply those three stores. It's not right.
yeah.
Whereas for me, I would love to spend more money every week.
Like if you're spending a lot and buying a lot, but not selling a lot, you could get in a lot of trouble that way too, right? So,
Profit pile, they say. Yeah.
well, and I also and I really truly do this. I don't mean to sound like this is like I'm one of those Star Wars Jedi mind trick things. You know what I mean? But I really have been fortunate enough to find things and buy things in bulk where or even if you look at it, you go out on a Saturday and you yard sale and you've spent, I don't know, $400 or $500 at yard sales on a Saturday for 4 hours, but what items in that yard sale pays for everything,
Yeah.
right? And I sell that, then I really don't have money tied up. Now, technically, if you look at every single individual purchase, I do, but really, I just got all my money back, and everything else here is gravy. So if I look at it that way, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Whatever works for you, right? Like
And
I'm a
sometimes it's
numbers
two
person.
or
I like
three items too. It's not just one. But what
yeah.
I'm saying is, so a lot of the inventory I have here is probably nothing into it. You know what I
Mm,
mean? I'm not
yeah.
saying everything, but for the like all those books, within the first week, I had I got $2,000. Like I made my money back plus $1,000, and everything was gravy. You know what I
The
mean?
main thing is, do you have the stuff listed, right? Like,
Well, and then there's not that on the flip side, which is negative. There's not that pressure to go out and list it. There's the pressure to go and buy
yeah,
more.
yeah, that's yeah. That's the only thing I sometimes find is like if buy a big lot of stuff like ViewMaster, right? And I sold a few of them and got my money back, then for some reason that might actually disincentivize myself to list the other ones. Do you
Exactly.
find that?
Oh, for sure,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah,
I that's why I was so proud of myself for actually listing my magazines. Because I
yeah.
actually listed all of them. It's like, wow, look at that. Where the hell did that motivation come from? But what you're kind of hinting at was the other, the five things I mentioned at the beginning, right? Time, capital, storage, sourcing, and motivation. So now we're kind of gone into storage a little bit, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And you know, that's not my problem. I have lots of room for more stuff.
I do
Uh,
too. I got a corner over here. I can
yeah,
shove things under that table. If I
you got the
adjust this on
roof,
this shelf, I could probably stuff a little bit more. I got lots of room,
you
Carl.
got the attic. Yeah.
Steph's car is empty now, so I can fill that up.
Oh, there you go. Fill storage shed. So I would say like it. One thing I've noticed though is that a lot of people who went and bought storage lockers, not
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're a listener and you're like, "That's not me," I'm not talking about you. A lot of people regret it.
Well, I think we got to put a little bit more perspective to the
Sure.
American listeners because I think their storage facilities are a lot cheaper than what we have here.
Oh,
Because
okay.
storage in Canada is very expensive. It's crazy expensive. It's insane expensive. And not only that, you can't find storage.
Mm.
Like they're always full. At
They're
least
building them everywhere too
they're
here. Yeah.
building them everywhere. Like if you go in the little town here, we have probably four fairly good sized storage facilities, and there's a waiting list. Is susceptible to the weathering of minus 30 degrees Celsius and plus 40 degrees
Oh, it's
Celsius.
not
You know,
even temperature controlled.
it's there's no temperature. It's temperature controlled to a degree in that it's indoors, but there's no windows, there's no heaters, there's no air
Humidity.
conditioning. It's
Yeah.
so I mean,
Wow.
you're not going to get your wind and your rain and your that kind of stuff, but you're gonna like old porcelain could start cracking. It could like
Yeah.
what do you call it? Crazing. You know what I mean? Your
Yeah.
teacups and all that kind of stuff. So it's old paintings, all that kind of stuff. It's it's gonna flex with the cold and the warmth. So storage facilities are a little bit of here in Canada, anyways. I think you could get in trouble. I'm agreeing with you 100%. You could get yourself into trouble both financially and destructing of your items.
And time
And,
wise,
and
it
there's
costs a
mice.
lot of
So if you
time.
got clothing, every facility is going to have mice in it. I
I
don't
got
care how
a
much mice, like poison you put around. Like you're gonna have signs of mice or see mice, and because I've done 15 storage units, and every single one of them had mice in
I'll
it.
never forget that story you talked about, like moving something, all these mice just started scattering
You could
everywhere.
hear them run up the tin,
Oh,
like it
night.
was insane.
Oh, creepy.
I had one jump out of a box and just
Oh.
take off. So, if you look at one of my other ones, I'm wheeling a cart to the elevator, and there's a dead mouse there. So I took video of the dead mouse. It's in my video,
Oh,
right?
I
Like
haven't seen, I'll have to go back and look at that one. I don't think I've seen
it's
that one.
insane. Like so, uh, so that they will destroy a lot of things too,
Mm.
right? Because they'll
Mm-hmm.
chew and pee and everything else into it. So any ephemera, any magazines, that kind of stuff, like you're I would stay away from storage units for sure.
Yeah. And in terms of storage, like when things get crowded down here, I just stop buying big stuff.
Like I remember a conversation with someone that had an antique store, and half the store was open to the public in an antique, but they had to pay rent for that facility, right? So they had vendors, but they had also a section in the back where there was a bathroom, there was like an open big room, but it was kind of their just an area where they could eat and stuff. And I'm like, why don't you just like instead of paying rent
Uh-huh.
for an apartment and this, why don't you just like live here? Nobody's gonna care. It's blocked off.
You're speaking like someone in their 20s that doesn't give a crap. It's just like
Dude,
whatever.
that's what you gotta be. That's what you gotta be, right?
Right.
Like because
I
if
don't
you're paying
recommend this
if you're
to
paying
people who are doing this part-time.
well, I'm just saying if you're paying rent for two different locations,
Right.
you're burning so much profit. Like, I mean, rent here can be $400 for a 10 by 20, 10 by 30 uh storage unit.
Yeah.
And if you're paying that, you have to, and you're doing $1,000 a month online or $2,000 a month online. Like that's a huge chunk coming out of your profits, right?
Like if you have a lot of listed inventory that's not moving quickly enough and you have a storage problem, you might want to lower your prices because that will free up storage that way as well.
Yeah, take some stuff to a local auction. Get
Donate it. Like I
don't
donated a lot
yeah,
of
get rid
garbage.
of it because
Yeah.
value is in the rent as opposed. You know what I mean? Like
The
I do the
room
same thing
has value.
where I am at the antique market is I have to kind of make sure my stuff is moving so it
Mm-hmm.
can't be priced to where it's taking too long because I do pay rent at those locations, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just space. If you had a storefront, you're paying rent and employees. Here, I'm paying a bit of a commission to cover the employees,
Yeah.
paying a bit of rent to cover my space,
Mm-hmm.
and it's profitable, so I'll keep doing it.
So is there anything else? So we talked about time, capital, storage, sourcing, motivation. Motivation.
Yeah, motivation is a bit of an issue for me. I'm going to go back to what we did in a previous show and say it's more a distraction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Distractions are my bugaboo. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're the ones that get me in trouble as distractions. So, and I'm easily distracted.
I love a good nap.
Naps are good. Naps are good. I feel that's a good point, Carl, because I feel if I get overwhelmed with a lot of stuff, it's easier just to go get a nap. It's
Oh,
easier
yeah.
just to grab a coffee, go lay down in the bed and watch some TV or on the
Yeah.
couch and just
Yeah.
get lost into something that just because my brain hurts. You know what I mean?
Oh, that is definitely my head in the sand thing.
Yeah.
Is my YouTube, having an app, doing anything but, right?
Yeah.
Uh that's a monkey on my back I have not been able to take off. And I spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to get that monkey off. But if it was that easy, we wouldn't have any issues, would we? If we were just motivated to, oh, I'm gonna list. I'm always amazed by those people who are like, I have zero death pile. I can just list everything. It's like, you bugger.
Yeah.
Because that's
No.
definitely not me. Like,
Yeah, I don't have that problem for sure. I definitely have a death pile that gets in my head for sure.
yeah. Maybe if I was
But
hungry, maybe if I was like, okay, if I don't make this sale, I don't get to pay the rent this month. I'm glad I
well,
don't have that motivation, but
but
I could see that.
I mean, it's not really that. I think the motivation has to come within. Like maybe it's a goal, which is your motivation. Maybe it's like I want to make 100,000 or 500,000 this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's my goal,
yeah,
and to do that, I need to do this. I got to be more efficient, or you know, before I can get that warehouse, I gotta be making so much money before I can think about hiring somebody. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So my
yeah,
goal is to just make this into a big machine, right? Uh, like don't get me wrong. Like I don't want to just work my life away. I enjoy this so much, and
yeah.
I think if I had people working for me and doing this, the crap that I don't like to do, like I'm just going to even go bigger. You know what I mean? Here.
Yeah, I think if you're motivated to do that, like it's amazing. Like I hope some people put some motivation tips in the comments because I could use a few of those myself. Especially when I'm procrastinating, this is all the stuff I think about. When I'm, for me, it's like trying to figure out all that stuff is some of the things I actually enjoy as well. You know, but hey, it's all learning. It's all good. It's like there's no at the end we're all in the if you're the richest person in the graveyard, it doesn't really matter, or the poorest, I guess, right? But well, we're doing this because we enjoy it, and I think for me, it's a case of like don't try to keep your eye on the enjoyment of this, right? Like if I went and bought, like, I'm not talking about the books you bought, but if you're doing paperback modern books and I'm making 10 cents a book, my life would be miserable. Like I
Yeah.
would not enjoy
No.
that.
100%.
Right?
100%.
Yep.
So what are we going to talk about next week, Carl?
So I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about some of the other YouTube channels we watch, like what we enjoy about them, what what information they have that we find that might not be as common from other channels, but even just the ones we regularly listen to. We might hint at maybe some things that we don't like what some channels do. But if people would add in the comment section some of the YouTube channels they do watch, it'd be kind of cool just to give us a chance as well to give them a look and see if we can talk about them in the next show.
Yeah, and see maybe there'll be ones that we don't even know exist, and
Exactly. Yeah.
explain like why, just briefly, just like
Yeah.
because they talk about items you like to sell, that kind of thing, whatever. Yeah, I definitely there's a couple I've been watching for years now that I can
Yeah.
think of, but there's always new channels that come out, and you know what? I've even honestly, I have to say, like we've said this before about you and I, but there's friends that I've made through YouTube channels. You know what I mean? So
Oh yeah, the community is so important to me. Even the ones that get big eventually, right? Like sometimes you lose that connection, but you always have the connection from the past, and that's kind
yeah,
of nice too.
yeah. So yeah, no, I look forward to that one for sure. And I think we'll be surprised at some of the ones we mentioned. I think we're going to be surprised. Like people probably might not even know they exist. So
Sounds good.
yeah, it looks like another entertaining show, and to come up, and I look forward to hearing everybody's comments. So we're done. This is podcast number 16. We finished, and now we're going to move on to podcast 17.
Sweet.
Can't believe it's been that long.
So have a great week, everyone. Remember to subscribe, comment below, share with a friend, all that stuff. It's always appreciated.
And we're here every Friday. We're on Spotify and YouTube, so leave a comment. Most people leave their comments on YouTube, but feel free to pick us up every Friday on either Spotify or YouTube. So that's it. That's it for me, Carl. Anything else?
Nope, that's it. Have a great week, everyone.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Bye all.
Until then, keep on picking.
Awesome. See ya.